It's not the highest end, and it's certainly not the most futuristic of all of Apple's tablets that you'll find on the market. But darn it, the iPad Generation 8 is still, to this day, almost a year later, it's one of the best deals in all of the tablet marketplace, and you should still buy one. So why is that? Let's find out. I had to save it from itself. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. It's no exaggeration to say that of all the tablets I own, the iPad Generation 8 is actually the one that I use the most. And you might think to yourself, Gary, that's obviously not the case. But this is actually my teleprompter for all of these YouTube videos. So yeah, it gets used more often than any other tablet I've ever owned. I've actually had to substitute it for the iPad Generation 7 for purposes of this video. I love this thing because for all the attention the iPad Pro and the iPad Air line gets, the standard iPad continues to provide exceptional value by giving you 95% of what all other iPads can do, but for far less money. Couple of quick notes as we start out, as this is a you should buy video. 1, no, I don't expect or want you to buy everything in this series. This is just my fun way to show all of the positive things about a certain piece of technology. And number 2, nobody is sponsoring this video. I purchased this iPad myself to talk about. That's how it works. On to the rest of the video. Now today, we are going to cover a lot of reasons about why the iPad Generation 8 is a good purchase, but you cannot start any conversations here today without starting at the price, because the price of these things is crazy low. While the base model itself costs around $329 on the Apple website, you can find it on Amazon for about $299. At $329, it's a great deal, and at $299, it's a greater deal. Technically, that's correct. For that base model, you'll get the A12 Bionic processor, 32 gigabytes of storage, Touch ID, and in a shockingly outdated yet still missed edition, you can get a headphone jack on this thing. Look at that. It's right there. Remember when we were all heartbroken that these started disappearing? Well, if you really want a headphone jack, here you go. You can get a version with 128 gigabytes of storage for $429. That's still a pretty good price, but when we get into the mid 400s, we start encroaching on iPad Air territory. So while sure, it's not bad, I'm not sure that I would recommend getting the iPad Gen 8 and then going for the higher storage option when you could just, get the iPad Air 4. The iPad Air 4 is amazing by itself too. Either way, this is a seriously stacked machine for $299. There are other tablets out there that cost around this mark. Samsung, for example, has the Tab A7 series that costs either less than or as much as this, and it does have a more modern look to it and more modern features. But, and this is the thing it is kind of frustrating talking about Apple stuff, you cannot beat an iPad or an iPhone on straight up specs. There are a ton of devices on the market that are technically superior to their Apple counterparts, and yet Apple continues to eat huge chunks of market share every year, leading me to the next reason to continue buying the iPad Generation 8, the system with which you can add it to. That made sense. The Apple ecosystem is the best personal technology ecosystem on the market, period. I didn't type period, it's just the actual period was there. That's not hyperbole, that's not fanboyism, that's just fact. Asterisk, a little bit of hyperbole. You can have your phone, tablet, computer, TV, headphones, everything tied into one account and have all of that technology constantly syncing with each other. It's remarkable. And one of the things detractors will say is that it's too expensive of a system to build. Well, sorry, detractor. Things like this iPad go a long way towards showing that that's not really the case. And what I like about iPads so much from an ecosystem perspective is this is more of the device that makes everything better. This works really well with Macs to be a second screen or even a new and unique way to operate them. This will let you transfer calls or manage meetings from your iPhone even easier. It lets you take meetings in near solitude with some AirPods Pro or Maxes. This is just such a good ecosystem enhancer, and that's why I so often recommend iPads to folks looking to build out their own personal set of tech. Just because it's cheap and very budget friendly though, that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice too much on the performance side, leading to the next reason to continue buying this, the power. And you might be scoffing that the lowest end iPad may be a powerful little computer, but the A12 Bionic chip is no slouch. This is the same processor found in the iPhone XS and the currently running Apple TV 4K. It's a little older, but it's still a 6-core, 7-nanometer processor, which if you're not a processor nerd, some actual computer companies with their much bigger designs and power, they still can't touch that. Power on a tablet or a phone is pretty relative, and I'm not the world's biggest fan of running benchmarks on these things because honestly, it doesn't matter that much. But I will say that apps and programs run very smoothly and very efficiently. If you are looking to use apps that require some oomph to them, like video editing, yes, I am a YouTuber. I spend a ton of each day editing video, so that does, yes, that colors my thoughts on devices. If you are looking to video edit on this thing, it won't be the fastest of all the iPads, but it will be more capable than just about any other computer in this price range. I didn't say tablet, I said computer. Anything else that costs the same as this will not work as well as this does. In my tests from last year, we were able to pretty seamlessly work with 4K files. And though it is the slowest iPad we've edited with, it still works so much better than some of the higher end laptops released at the same time. But a refrain that I like to point out when it comes to power on mobile devices is it's not so much the actual on-hand power that matters, it's the longevity that that power buys you. And as iOS 15 is coming to the iPhone 6s and its almost ancient A9 processor, your iPad Generation 8 and its comparatively newer A12 processor will continue to get software updates and features for years to come. Yes, there might be an update to the iPad coming out later this year, but this specific iPad will stay relevant for a very, very long time. One of the reasons for that relevancy, and the next reason to buy, is helped by the unfortunate safety measures needed over the past year and a half. This is still one of the few remaining iPads with Touch ID built right into the body. Yes, the iPad Air 4 has Touch ID built into the lock button at the top, but it doesn't work nearly as well as the standard front body design touch sensor does. I love this. Wholeheartedly and without embarrassment, this is one of my favorite iPad features of all time. And it becomes more so the more I need to wear a mask to go everywhere. Face ID is a liability anymore. And no matter how quick they update the firmware, they update the software to get the phone or the iPad or whatever I'm using to swap to me inputting the PIN, it's just so much nicer and so much faster to have the front-facing Touch ID sensor. I really hope that we start seeing a return of this. Obviously, with a new design language, we probably won't see an actual physical button on the front anymore, but maybe an under-screen button or some kind of update or improvement to that lock button method, because I don't think it works as well. And I do really like that. The rest of the physical design is dated, but still very well constructed. One of the things that you do lack on the standard iPad is you do not get a fully laminated display. But this Retina panel is still beautiful and it's still sharp. You really have to be staring with the display pressed right up to your face to notice the separation. And just in use, I don't really think you'd be able to tell that much. And as rare and unique features go, this still has a headphone jack, which is something that I do not say very often anymore. And the rest of the construction is just top notch. Even though you don't pay that much for the tablet, this still feels like a high quality piece of technology, and it does not feel cheap anywhere in its construction. Bonus points on the side here, like right here, you do get a basic version of the smart connector, and this will be able to work with a whole host of accessories that tie in with this. Namely, as you can see here, the Smartfolio Keyboard. And this really adds a lot to the experience of the tablet. And while it's not as good as the Magic Keyboard from the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, this costs less, and with that lower cost of entry on the tablet, you save a ton of money overall with both the tablet and this accessory, and you get most of the functionality. And while we're talking about accessories, another cool thing about the iPad Generation 8 is this will work with the first generation Apple Pencil. So if you are an artist or if you are a designer, you can still use this as one of those cool drawing tablets. Now, I'm not much of a drawer, I'm not much of a designer. If you saw my artwork or anything like that, I would definitely be very embarrassed. But I like that we can say that this iPad does exactly and almost exactly what that far more expensive iPad Pro can do. It's got keyboard and pencils. What else do you need? Keyboard and pencils. That's my jam, right, fam? But at the end of the day, so what, right? Yes, I could keep going on and on about the iPad Generation 8, but I really wanted to hit the high points and continue singing the praises of this tiny tablet. You can get these for fantastic deals, and this provides so much value for the price, it's crazy. You hear me say this often, but I love that you don't need to spend so much to get all of the capability that Apple's software provides. There are absolutely companies out there that will force you to buy high-end hardware and high-end devices to get the high-end software, and you don't need to do that with this current set of Apple tech. You can buy the cheapest ecosystem and still have the best ecosystem, and the iPad Generation 8 is an absolute linchpin of that cheapest ecosystem. I will Spoiler alerts, I will continue recommending this tablet because of how much power and potential features it has for such a small amount of money. You will be hard-pressed to find anything else that provides a similar amount of functionality. And you should still continue to buy one. And if you like this video and you want to see more about iPads, iPad accessories, or more about this specific awesome little iPad, you can find my whole iPad playlist and series by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.